Welcome to Strip Cover, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. We have poetry on Mondays, and Mondays we have poetry. Look, I know that it has been very Emily Dickinson centric lately, but I hope that will not be the case. I have taken a couple suggestions of poems I will be looking into. So if you have poems that you want me to look into, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll get around to it. But I'm trying to ease my way back into things, and Emily Dickinson is what I know, guys. So even though we are taking on poems lately that I with which I am not familiar. Also, on Thursdays, got Fairy Tale by Stephen King. So if you are a Stephen King fan or a sort of alt genre, it's not a fairy tale necessarily. I wouldn't call it. It's not horror. It's not necess. I guess it's fantasy. I guess it's fantasy. But what we have today is the poem before you. I have learned new tricks, assuming I can pull this off. I'm going to read the poem and then we will get into the discussion. A thought went up my mind today that I have had before, but did not finish some way back. I could not fix the year, nor where it went, nor why it came the second time to me, nor definitely what it was have I the art to say. But somewhere in my soul I know I've met the thing before. It just reminded me 'twas all, and came my way no more. On the surface, I think that this poem feels very Shel Silverstein, very sort of troublingly whimsical. Hey, where does the sidewalk end? What goes on there? Um, if there was a land of happy, would they have to have unhappy there just to know it? All of these sorts of questions, these troublingly whimsical ideas that have no real world weight, but when reading them, we are forced to sort of toggle on or off the troubling nature of them. If the sidewalk ends someplace, what does that mean for the civilization? You have sidewalks in civilization, right? You don't have sidewalks in the woods. That's just a pathway. Sidewalks are next to something. If the sidewalk ends, does the thing next to it end? If there was a land of happy and they did not have unhappy, how would they know they were happy? Right? All of these things, but not to disparage Shel Silverstein. I think there's something different going on here. Something meaningfully darker. I have my suspicions, but I'm not going to simply suggest a vicissitude here. I'm going to ease my way into the argument, and I will set up that my interpretation here does not have to be the correct interpretation here. I think it's just an interpretation here, but I have my wriggling suspicion that maybe I am correct. The the idea of suicide is, I believe, an idea that it is a seed that cannot be unplanted. It is an idea that once it has taken root, stays. It does not mean that it'll be acted on. It does not mean that it seems like a good idea, even. If you listen to the music of Chris Cornell, for example, that thread is always there. What else is a pretty noose, right? That idea is always there. And maybe, so there is mystery surrounding the way that Chris Cornell left us, but it sounds an awful lot one way. And if it is that way, um, one time he did not get away from that idea. I think, I think that there are people to whom the idea makes sense, and there are people to whom the idea does not make sense. People to whom that idea does not make sense, it will not make sense. It simply won't. But people to whom the idea does make sense, they can always have that conversation. They can always have the conversation. They can always talk about the ideas linked to it. They can always talk about the sort of repercussions thereof. They can always envision these things because it is not emotionally charged. People to whom that idea makes sense do not wrap it in the emotion that normally encompasses those discussions outside of those people, right? When people who when people to whom that idea does not make sense talk about that idea, you will find that it is always emotionally charged. Um, with that in mind, just with that in mind, I'm going to read this poem again. A thought went up my mind today that I have had before, but did not finish. Some way back, I could not fix the year, nor where it went, nor why it came the second time to me, nor definitely what it was have I the art to say. But somewhere in my soul, I know I've met the thing before. It just reminded me, 'twas all, and came my way no more. This is an idea that our speaker has had. Not the idea I'm talking about, but the idea our speaker is referencing. The idea that comes to our speaker is one that our speaker has had before. In fact, the line here, I've met the thing before, thing capitalized. I've met the thing before. That definitely makes it sound bad. That definitely makes it sound foreboding. That definitely makes it sound like it is an unpleasant thing. I've met the thing before. In my soul, I know I've met the thing before. But notice how quickly we are deferred from the emotionally charged part of this speech. But somewhere in my soul, I know I've met the thing before. It just reminded me, 'twas all, and came my way no more. The moment we start creeping up on that emotional charge, boom, shut out of there. And then there's this line, I don't know what to make of it. I suppose I could say I don't have the art to make of it. I don't have the art to say what this line is, but I really like it. I really like that line. I do not have the art to say what it was. But what could that be implying? So, when we're talking about ideas so um, deleterious, I mean, I don't know how else to explain that idea. When we're talking about something, an idea so deleterious, we're talking about something which, in finite terms, introduces the infinite. And both of those phrases, finite, infinite, both of those phrases are things that we're not very good at dealing with. Both of those are so the finite, life ends. Life is going to end. We won't be around forever. That doesn't make anyone particularly comfortable, no matter who you are. I don't care. You can say it does. I don't care. But the idea of the infinite, that's something we can't even understand. How do you wrap your mind around the infinite? So this is the introduction of an idea that is uncomfortable. And for a poet such as Emily Dickinson to use their speaker, this isn't necessarily from Emily Dickinson, but a poet such as Emily Dickinson to use their speaker and say, my art, my poetry, my prowess as a poet does not include the box that includes this idea. I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to do that thing. I don't know how to act with that thing. I don't know how to put that thing into my words. Now, I said I was not going to assert, but part of the beauty of this poem is that I don't have to. I don't have to assert that idea. This poem works just perfectly for other ideas. This poem is that poem for me. Doesn't have to be for you. Um, isn't this poem, aren't these things the same nature as what you kids call cringe today? Remember that time that you said something exceptionally stupid at the lunch table and everyone looked at you? Or when you had a crush on that person and you went to the diner 3 or 4 times a week just at the chance of having them as your waiter or waitress, and finally you said something and they shot you down? That's a cringe memory. Those are things um, that aren't comfortable. Or the time, oh, what about the time that you had to read out loud in class, I don't know, like middle school history, and you weren't prepared for the phrase the annals of history. So when it came out, you didn't know the word annals, not the word you used. Those are cringe memories. Those are memories. Now, when you hit something that cringe to yourself, when that memory comes up and you let out that little groan while you're probably that idea hit you in the shower. Probably that idea hit you on the drive to work. Probably that idea hits you some random place and you were forced to remember the weirdo that you are. You are forced to remember no one really sees you like you see you. Maybe everyone sees you in the way that you see some other weirdo, right? Maybe that's you. We turn inward at that realization. All those, you've got a cringe memory. Everyone has a cringe memory. Okay, bring up, conjure the cringe. Conjure the cringe. Think of that memory. Put yourself in that place. And now, one more time, a thought went up my mind today that I have had before, but did not finish some way back. I could not fix the year, nor where it went, nor why it came the second time to me, nor definitely what it was, have I the art to say. But somewhere in my soul I know I've met the thing before. It just reminded me 'twas all, and came my way no more. Tell me that poem is not perfect for those cringe memories. But what is a cringe memory? It's not something cutesy like we sort of meme into existence today. No. Oh no. A cringe memory is cringe-worthy, cringe-inducing, because what it does is embarrassing. But what is embarrassment? Embarrassment. Okay, so real easy embarrassing moment. Everyone is pretty familiar with the sport of football. Imagine being a wide receiver, streaking down the field to win the game. The quarterback throws the ball over your shoulder, and you drop it in the end zone. Game over. You lose. That's an embarrassing thing. Embarrassing because it shows you are not the person you thought you were. You are not the individual you had built yourself up to be. You are not whatever it is you wanted to construct. That's why it's embarrassing, because you had put yourself out there as if you were said thing, and it turns out, no, you were being an idiot. That's how it feels, at least. That is what it means to be cringe. That is what it means to be embarrassed. It is a subtle shaking of the self into a lesser realization of the self. If this poem is about that, I think we can all understand that as well. And regardless if this is a poem about my suggestion, or if it's a poem about that, or if you have another interpretation of this poem, by all means, let me know, because talking about Emily Dickinson is something that will never get old. But like I said, I am looking for other poems to discuss. I am looking for other poets to digest. If you have suggestions, let me know. There will be poetry every Monday. And don't forget, National Poetry Month, we will have poetry every day, whether you like it or not. So that is all I have for this discussion, this poetry discussion. Poetry discussions on Monday. And I hope to have you back for the next one.